What's going on, everybody? Today we got ourselves a really quick unboxing video. Today we're unboxing, and I'm very excited about this, the Valeton GP-100. Just got to me by Amazon. Here's the box that it came in. You can see the Amazon tag on it. And the only thing, there was another barcode underneath there, but it had the UPS sticker there that I wanted to tear off so no one could see my exact address. So, let's have at her. It's got that little sticker right over by the front, making it a little bit difficult. All right, just your basic cardboard box there. Over here in the little side compartment. Got ourselves the 9-volt power adapter. Very nice. Small. That's very nice that it's small so it's not that big of a footprint on the old board, on the old pedal board. Now we also have a USB printer cable for being able to run it as an interface and use the PC and or Mac editor for it. Couple nice pieces of styrofoam on either side. Very, very small unit. Very nice. Oh, yeah. The silica jelly there. Wow. This thing is solid. Oh, yeah. All metal, even with the foot switch. Pardon me, the expression pedal. The expression pedal feels really good. Doesn't seem like there's a ton of room for it to move to go through the different variables in it, but yeah. Input and output section is right there. Definitely really solid construction. Everything is all metal in this. And the only other thing that we get is a little instruction manual. Quick reference guide. So yes. Minus packing materials, here's what we have. An instruction manual. The actual unit itself, which seems very rock solid. I'm impressed with the construction and build quality on it. Very, very tiny, which is always helpful, AC adapter. And the USB cable for being able to connect to the computer to run as a recording interface and to be able to use the editor through PC or Mac. All right, everybody. That does it for this quick unboxing video. Thanks for watching this video. Do what makes you happy. All right, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Valeton GP-100, just all of the electric guitar presets. This does not include the acoustic simulators. I'm going to do that on a separate video, which is going to include the acoustic guitar simulators as well as the acoustic guitar sounds. So today we're taking a look at nothing but the electric guitar factory presets. I thought that it was actually going to be best just to show the PC editor. It shows you a lot more about what's going on. There's plenty of videos on how to configure everything with the actual foot controller itself. So I thought that the computer editor gives a lot more visibility to everything. So without any further ado, let's go ahead. And as you can see over in here, right over by here, this is where it's going to actually show all the different presets. Now, with this, the electric guitar factory presets are F01 to F65. Now, I'll be going through most likely with the foot switch. So for whatever reason, no matter what you do, whenever you go to another preset, it always defaults to whatever the pre would be, which in this case is the wah. For this, I'm using my Gibson Melody Maker Les Paul with a single EMG humbucker in the bridge position. Signal chain's a little bit different than usual because, well, this unit is running in stereo. I'm running it in stereo, and I only have one DI box. So I'm going direct from guitar into the GP-100, out of the left and right stereo outs into two separate inputs in my interface. What you're hearing back is the completely unprocessed sound, nothing but the GP-100. Let's get her going on. This is the first one, known as its GP-100. All right, that's its GP-100. And now, Blink OD. That was Blink OD. Now, Star Clean. All right, that was Star Clean. Now, Best Solo. Nice little delay on there. All right, that was Best Solo. Now, and I quote, heavy metal. All right, that was heavy metal. Here's Warm Clean. Nice, so that was Warm Clean. Here is Slick Recto. That was Slick Recto. Modern UK. That was Modern UK. Glassy SV. That is Glassy SV. Tender solo. Ooh, it's very tender. That's tender solo. Fat plexi. Not a normal plexi, a fat plexi. Fat plexi. That was fat plexi. Fat plexi. Tight clean. That's tight clean. Golden head. That was golden head. 80s riff. That was 80s riff. 800 clean. That was 800 clean. This is Match Fusion. That was Match Fusion. Here is Robust OD. That was Robust OD. Here is Basic Jazz. That was Basic Jazz. Foxy Blues. That was Foxy Blues. And now we have Twin Drive. That was Twin Drive, Dirty Funk. That was Dirty Funk. Psycho Fuzz. That was Psycho Fuzz. Trem OD. That was Trem OD. Alt Clean. That was Alt Clean. Missed. That was Missed. Dreamer. All right, that was Dreamer. Freezes. That was Freezes. This is Octave Fuzz. That was octave fuzz. Now we got UK fuzz. That was UK fuzz. Night vibe. That was night vibe. Full chorus. That was full chorus. Lone Star. And that was Lone Star. Dive bell lead. That was dive bell lead. Shine on You. That was Shine on You. In the Air. That was In the Air. Back cab. That was back cab. Tick tock. Okay, that was TikTok, 70s punk. That was 70s punk, 90s grunge. That was 90s grunge. Ska, ska, ska. That was ska, ska, ska. Wanna rock. That was Wanna Rock. Thoughts. That was Thoughts. Rich J120. That was Rich J120. G-Force. That was G-Force. Recto Power. That is Recto Power. OS Solo. That's OS Solo. Flag Gent. drag gent. USA lead. That was USA lead. This is rockabilly. That is rockabilly. This would be skyline. That was skyline. Sweet kid. That was Sweet Kid. May lead. That was May lead. Plexi Cream. That was Plexi Cream. Moon Echo. That was Moon Echo. Dub and Vibe. That was Dub and Vibe. Countryman. I don't really know any country riffs, but that was the preset known as Countryman. Dover lead. That's Dover lead. 70s soul cue. That was 70s soul cue. Cry solo, because that last one, the 70s soul cue, was actually an auto wah, but this one actually has the expression pedal already activated for it. So this is the cry solo, and I'm going to utilize the expression pedal with it. Again, that was the cry solo while actually utilizing the expression pedal, which was activated for that patch. Smooth jazz. That was smooth jazz. Woody jazz. Melody Jazz, Lover's End. That was Lover's End, Massive Octave. That was Massive Octave. J Rocker. That was J Rocker. Last but not least, Cali Clean. That about does it for all the electric guitar factory presets in the Valeton GP-100. Thanks for checking out this video, everybody. Do what makes you happy. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Valeton GP-100, all of the acoustic simulators, and the acoustic factory presets. Once again, I'm going to be using my Gibson Les Paul Melody Maker with a single EMG humbucker in the bridge position. Signal chain's a little different than usual because I only have one DI box. Once again, I'm going out of the two stereo 1/4-inch outputs directly into the interface, and everything that you're hearing coming back is just the Valeton GP-100, no post-production whatsoever. Here's the first. There's actually only 3 acoustic guitar simulators, AC Sim 1, 2, and 3. So here's AC Sim 1. That was AC Sim 1. Here's AC Sim 2. That was AC Sim number 2. Here's AC Sim number 3. All right, that was AC Sim number 3. Alrighty, everybody. Now we're getting into the acoustic factory presets. For this, I'm using my Takamine G-Series acoustic, and same signal chain as previously discussed, except for now I got my Takamine G-Series acoustic plugged into the GP-100. For this first sound, now this is Basic Acou, which I think is short for Basic Acoustic. All right, that was Basic Acou. Here's Slap Acou. That is Slap Acou. Smooth Acou. That was Smooth Acou. This one's weird. Acoustic Overdrive. Acoustic Overdrive. Here is a D-type sim, as they call it. There was a D-type sim, as they call it. Here is OM sim. OM type sim, J type sim. That was a J-type sim. This is a GA-type sim. All right, that was a GA-type sim. Lush Acoustic. That was Lush Acoustic. Deep Acou. That was Deep Acou. Acoustic. Acou Vibe. That was Acou Vibe, Acoustic Vibe. Last but most certainly not least, Dreamy Acou. Dreamy Acoustic. All right. That was Dreamy Acou, Dreamy Acoustic. That about does it for the Valeton GP-100, all acoustic simulators and acoustic factory presets. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So what's going on, everybody? I decided to do this video today because with all the modelers that are out there, you see a lot of people, myself included, running through all the stock factory presets and all of them, which is all well and good, but what I always wonder is, what is the sound of just the amp and cabs themselves? Because usually, for myself at least, in a recording situation, if I was going to use a modeler like this, I would want to get a good amp and cab sound only. And then I would use all the, reverbs, delays, choruses, all those other kind of effects directly in the DAW. That's what I always wondered. So that's why I put together this video of nothing but all of the electric guitar, amp, and cab sounds only. Signal chain is a little different today. I'm using my Gibson Melody Maker style Les Paul, or Gibson Les Paul style Melody Maker, whichever way you want to call it, with a single EMG humbucker in the bridge position. I'm going direct into the GP-100 and out of the two stereo quarter-inch outs directly into the interface, and everything that you're hearing back is just the GP-100 direct with no post-production whatsoever. So, there's 39 guitar amps in total. Now, it sees the different channels of the same amp as a different amp. For example, the Mesa Boogie Lone Star, it has the Mesa Boogie Lone Star clean channel, as well as the Mesa Boogie Lone Star overdrive channel. Counts it as two separate amps. Now, there's a wild card in here for the two separate channels of the 1959 Fender Bassman amp for both the normal and the bright channel. I call this a wild card because it's supposed to be a bass guitar amp, but as we all know, God knows how many guitar players have used a Fender Bassman. So, some of these amps don't have the corresponding cabinet/speaker that goes with them. In this case, I'm going to choose the closest cab/speaker that goes with the amp. I'll be keeping the settings of all the amps at 12 o'clock. For high gain amps, the gain will be set at 12 o'clock. For clean amps, I'll put the gain at about 9 o'clock or a bit lower depending on the amp. For the Fender amps, and I know that they can go high gain as well, but I would usually use a Fender amp for a clean sound. So for all of the Fender amps, I chose to do them as clean sounds with the gain at about 9 o'clock or a little lower depending on the amp. Now, the reason I decided to keep everything at noon, well, like I said, there's going to be 39 different sounds that I'm going to go through with you that have all the different electric guitar amp sounds, and that would make for way too long of a video if we adjusted all the settings. So everything is at 12 noon. Everything's at 12 noon with the exception of the clean amps, which are set at about 9 to maybe a little bit lower. Alrighty, without any further ado, let's get to our first sound. This is a Marshall JCM 800 with a Marshall 412 cabinet with Celestion G12T-75 speakers in it. So once again, that was a Marshall JCM 800 with a Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion G12T-75 speakers. Now, this next sound we have here is a Marshall JTM 45 with the same speaker cabinet, a Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion G12T-75 speakers. So that was a Marshall JTM 45 with the same speaker cabinet as the last example, a Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion G12T-75 speakers. This next sound is a Marshall JMP 50 with a Marshall 1960 AV 4x12 cabinet. So So that was a Marshall JMP-50 with a Marshall 1960 AV 412 cabinet. Next up, we have one of the two Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers. For whatever reason, there was two of them. They didn't seem to make much of a difference in the description except for dual V and dual M. So this one is the dual M. It's a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier with a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier 4x12 cabinet. So that was the first of the two Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers, the one that's known as Dual V, with the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier 4x12 cabinet. Now, here's the second Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, M Dual M, with the same cabinet, the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier 4x12 cabinet. So that was the second Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, the Dual M, the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier 4x12 cabinet with that once again. Now, next up, we got a Mesa Boogie Lone Star on the clean channel with the Mesa Boogie Lone Star 2x12 cabinet. Alright, so that was a Mesa Boogie Lone Star on the clean channel with the Mesa Boogie Lone Star 2x12 cabinet that goes with it. Now we have the Mesa Boogie Lone Star in the overdrive channel, once again with the Mesa Boogie Lone Star 2x12 cabinet. So that was the Mesa Boogie Lone Star overdrive channel, once again with the Mesa Boogie Lone Star 2x12 cabinet. All right, next up, we got a Mesa Boogie Mark II C+ on channel 1 with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12 cabinet. So that was a Mesa Boogie Mark II C+ on channel 1 with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12. Now, next up, we got the Mesa Boogie Mark II C Plus Channel 2, once again with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12 cabinet. So that was the Mesa Boogie Mark II C Plus Channel 2 with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12 cabinet. Next up, we have the Mesa Boogie Mark IV lead channel, once again with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12. All right, so that was the Mesa Boogie Mark IV lead channel with the Mesa Boogie Road King 4x12. Next up, we have the 1959 Fender Bassman on the normal channel with the 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. So that was a 1959 Fender Bassman on the normal channel with the 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cab. Next up is the 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. So that was a 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. Next up, we have a 1965 Fender Twin Reverb with the corresponding 1965 Twin Reverb 2x12 cabinet. That was a 1965 Fender Twin Reverb with the corresponding 1965 Fender Twin Reverb 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we've got a Fender Tweed Deluxe with a custom modified Fender 2x12 cab. All right, that was a Fender Tweed Deluxe with a custom modified 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we have a Vox AC30HW on the normal channel with a Vox single 112 cabinet. So that was a Vox AC30HW on the normal channel with a Vox AC15 single 12 cabinet. Next up, we've got the Vox AC30HW top boost channel with the Vox AC15 112 cabinet. All right, so that was the Vox AC30HW top boost channel with a Vox AC15 with a single 12 cabinet in it. Next up, we've got the Soldano SLO 100 with the crunch channel with the matching Soldano 4x12 cab. That was the Soldano SLO on the crunch channel with the Soldano 4x12 cabinet. Next up, we have the Soldano SLO 100 on the overdrive channel with the Soldano 4x12 cabinet. That was the Soldano SLO 100 on the overdrive channel with the Soldano 4x12 cabinet. Next up, we got a matchless Chieftain clean tone with a 2-rock 2x12 cabinet. All right, that was a matchless Chieftain clean tone with a 2-rock 2x12. Next up, we have a matchless Chieftain again, but this time with the dirty tone, and it's using the 2-rock 2x12 once again. All right, that was the matchless Chieftain dirty tone with the 2-rock 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we have the Friedman Brown Eye BE channel with a vintage Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion greenback speakers. So that was the Friedman Brown Eye BE channel with a vintage Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion greenbacks. Next up, we have the Friedman Brown Eye on the normal channel, once again with the vintage Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion greenback speakers. All right, so once again, that was a Friedman Brown Eye on the normal channel, once again with a vintage Marshall 4x12 cabinet with Celestion greenback speakers. Next up, we have an Engel Savage 120 E610 with an Engel 4x12 cab. All right. Once again, that was an Engel Savage 120 E610 with the Engel 4x12 cabinet. Next up is an Engel Powerball 2 E645/2 channel 4 with an Engel 4x12 cab. So that was an Engel Powerball 2 E645/2 channel 4 with an Engel 4x12 cabinet. All right, so next up we have a Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary version channel 1 with a Bogner Shiva 1x12 cabinet. So once again, that was a Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary version, channel 1, with the Bogner Shiva 1x12 cabinet. Next up, once again, we have the Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary version, channel 2, once again with the Bogner Shiva 1x12 cab. All right, that was the Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary version, channel 2, with the Bogner Shiva 1x12 cab. Next up, we have the Bogner Ecstasy Blue Channel, vintage mode, once again with the Bogner Shiva 1x12 cab. All right, that was a Bogner Ecstasy Blue Channel vintage mode with the Bogner Shiva 1x12. All right, and next up, we've got the Bogner Ecstasy Blue Channel modern mode, once again with the Bogner Shiva 1x12. So once again, that was the Bogner Ecstasy Blue Channel in modern mode with the Bogner Shiva 1x12 cabinet. Next up, we have the Bad Cat Hot Cat 30 Clean Channel with the Black Cat Hot Cat 1x12 cabinet. Alrighty, that was the Bad Cat Hot Cat 30 Clean Channel with the Bad Cat Hot Cat 1x12 cabinet. Next up, we have the Bad Cat Hot Cat 30 Overdrive Channel, once again with the Black Cat Hot Cat 1x12 cabinet. All right, that was the Bad Cat Hot Cat 30 Overdrive Channel with the Black Cat Hot Cat 1x12 cabinet. Next up, we got the Dr. Z Maz 8 SR Combo Clean Sound with the 1980s Mezza Boogie 112 cab. That was the Dr. Z Maz 8 SR Combo Clean Sound with the 1980s Mezza Boogie 1x12 cabinet. Next up, we got the Dr. Z Maz 8 SR Combo Dirty Tone, once again with the 1980s Mezza Boogie 1x12 cab. Once again, that was the Dr. Z Maz 8 SR Combo Dirty Tone with the 1980s Mezza Boogie 1x12 cab. Next up, we've got the Grind Rod Pendragon PG20C Normal Channel with the bright off, and I'm using a Marshall 2550 2x12 cabinet with it. All right, so that was the Grind Rod Pendragon PG20C Normal Channel Bright Off with a Marshall 2550 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we got the Grind Rod Pendragon PG20C Drive Channel, once again with the Marshall 2550 2x12 cabinet. Once again, that was the Grind Rod Pendragon PG20C drive channel, once again with the Marshall 2550 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we got an orange Reverb 100, the dirty channel, with an orange PPC 412 4x12 cabinet. All right. Once again, that was an orange Reverb 100 on the dirty channel with the orange PPC 412 cabinet. All right. Next up, we got a PV 5150 on the lead channel with the PV 6505 4x12 cabinet. Alrighty, that was a PV 5150 on the lead channel with a PV 6505 4x12 cabinet. Next up, we got a Roland Jazz Chorus with the Roland Jazz Chorus 2x12. All right, that was a Roland Jazz Chorus with a Roland Jazz Chorus 2x12 cabinet. Next up, we got the Supro Dual Tone 1624T, channel 1 and 2, dirty tone, with a Supro 1x6 cabinet. So once again, that was a Supro Dual Tone 1624T, channels 1 plus 2 with the dirty tone with a Supro 1x6 speaker cabinet. Last but most certainly not least, we have a Diesel VH4 with a Diesel 4x12 cab. All right, that was a Diesel VH4 with a Diesel 4x12 cabinet. That about does it for the Valeton GP-100, all electric guitar, amp, and cab sounds only. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So, today we're going to be doing a review of the distortion / overdrive / fuzz section of the Valeton GP-100. I'm going to be using my Gibson Les Paul Melody Maker that has a single EMG humbucker in the bridge position. The signal chain is going to be the same way it has been for me while doing all of the Valeton recordings because, again, I only have one DI box. I'm going from my guitar into the Valeton, out of the two left and right 1/4 inch outputs, into the interface, and what you'll be hearing back is just the Valeton GP-100 with no post-production whatsoever. For the amp model, I'm going to be using a 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the corresponding 410 Bassman cabinet. Here, you can see the settings that I'm going to use on the Fender Bassman. The gain's only at about 15, which makes it completely clean. Here's how it sounds with just the amp model and no overdrive or distortion added whatsoever. I won't be adjusting the settings much on this because that would make far too long of a video. For the most part, I'm going to demo through each one of the distortion sounds with everything roughly at about noon. Here's Green OD. That was Green OD. This is Yellow OD. That was Yellow OD. Super OD. That was Super OD. Blues OD. That was Blues OD. This one's called Lazario? I don't know what it says there in the screen capture. Lazario. Whatever. This is Red Haze. That was Red Haze. This is Dark Tail. That was Dark Tail. This is Flex OD. That was Flex OD. This is SM Dis. That was SM Dis. This is La Charger. That was La Charger. Last is the bass distortion, which I'll still be doing on guitar. That was bass distortion. All right, everyone. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video. The Valeton GP-100, all of the pre-sounds. For this review, I'm using my Glenn Burton GE355NT Memphis semi-hollow body electric with 2 EMGs loaded into it. I'm going to be using it in the center position with both the neck and the bridge humbuckers activated. For this, I'm going to be using the same signal chain as I have been for all of the GP100 reviews. Since I only have one direct box, I'm going to be going from the guitar directly into the GP100 and out of the 2 1/4-inch stereo outputs into the interface, into the DAW, and everything that you're hearing back is just the GP100, no post-production whatsoever. For this example again, I'm going to be using the Fender Bassman model on the Bright channel with the corresponding Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. Here you can see the settings that I'm going to use on the Fender Bassman. Here's the guitar clean with no effects on it. Here we got just a regular old compressor. All right, that was just a straight up compressor. Here's comp 4, basically just another compressor. All right, that was comp 4. Basically just another compressor. Boost. Just a generic boost with the bright on. That's just a boost. Here we have an acoustic simulator. That was an acoustic simulator. T-wah. That was T-wah. A-wah. And on this one, I'm actually using the expression pedal. That was A-wah. V-wah. And once again, I'm using the expression pedal on this. That was V-wah. C-wah, once again, using the expression pedal. That was C-wah. Octa. That was octa. Pitch. That was pitch. B bend. That was P bend. This is saturate. That was saturate. Step filter. That was step filter. Last but most certainly not least, ring mod. That was ring mod. All right. That about does it. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. Today we're doing a review of the EQ and gate sections of the Valeton GP-100. I'll be using my Gibson Melody Maker with a single EMG humbucker in the bridge. I'll be going directly into the Valeton out of the left and right 1/4 inch outputs into the interface, and everything that you're going to hear back is going to be nothing but the Valeton GP-100, no post-production whatsoever. First, we'll be doing the EQ section. For that, I'm using the 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the corresponding Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. Over here, you can see the settings that I'm using for the Fender Bassman. Here's what it sounds like with just the amp sim, no EQ pedal added to it at all. All right, since there's actually only 2 EQs, I will actually be able to adjust the settings on these without making it way too long of a video. Okay, so we've got 2 EQs, EQ1 and EQ2. They didn't go so crazy with the naming convention. As you can see here, in EQ1, here is our frequency ranges. So I'm essentially just going to play around with this a little bit and do a little playing and do a little adjusting, which I don't get much of a chance to do because I'm usually doing so many different settings at once. So let's add a Let's add a little bottom to it. Hear it without the EQ on. You definitely get a lot of bottom end out of that. Now let's roll those back to off in the center. Now let's give a little bit more low and high mids. Just a little hair of high mids and crank the actual mids almost all the way up. All right, that was with a little bit of low and high mids. Let's hear it without that, without the EQ engaged. Let's try that again with the EQ engaged, with a little bit more of the low and high mids. All right, got a little bit of a 4K boost in there now. That was a little 4K boost in there. Let's see what it's like without that. All right. So yeah, that's EQ1. Just adjusted just a few frequencies this way and that way. Of course, you can adjust this and mix and match the frequencies whichever way you want within correspondence to your amp sound. Come up with infinite amount of tones. Now we've got EQ2. As you can see, whole different spectrum of frequency ranges. Once again, let's try with adding a little bit of the low. A lot of lows. Lows and low mids. All right, let's hear it without those frequencies boosted. Here's with a little bit of a 400 and an 800 boost. Here's without the 400 or 800 boost. Now, let's try with the 2K boost. Now, let's try without that 2K boost. All right, that does it for the EQ review section. Again, I just wanted to boost a couple of frequencies at a time so you can see how well the EQs handle everything. Again, you can go and set everything your own way for infinite amount of possibilities when you're EQing between the EQ pedal and the equalizer that's on the amp sim. Now, for the noise gates. For the amp model, I'll be using the Soldano SLO 100 on the overdrive channel with the corresponding Soldano 4x12 cabinet. Since this is really for a noise gate review, I'm going to have the gain completely cranked. Here's what the Soldano SLO 100 sounds like with no noise gate at all. You can hear that little bit of hiss coming. You can really hear that bit of noise in between. Hum's pretty present. Here, you can see my settings on the Soldano. Like I said, gain cranked. Because I'm using just this thing and, through amp sims directly into the interface, it's not as bad as it would be if you're running an actual high gain amp, but if and when this goes through a PA system, you can tell. But anyways, you can hear that. Much like the EQs, they have gate 1 and gate 2. No huge creativity on the names. So as we see, with gate 1, all we have is a threshold. Now let's go ahead and click this on. Wow, instantly. But it's at its default of noon. All right, pretty good. It does seem to shut a little abruptly. It does seem to cut off, but that's at the default of noon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start bringing it down just until I start to hear that hiss, and then just up from there. All right, seems like 17 on this particular gate is roughly where it just hits it nice. Let's hear it. All right, we might be able to adjust it a little more so it closes right on that last note. Got it at about 17 now. Let's go maybe 19. Still seems to be a little bit of a little tiny bit of a nanosecond or two. I don't know if it's actually a nanosecond, where it doesn't quite cut it off. Got it at 19. Let's, I don't know, maybe 21. Pretty good, actually. Now, if you start to crank this gate all to hell, it'll cut off notes pretty much halfway through. Actually, not too bad. Let's crank it all the way up till roughly almost 3/4. Way too early. Noon. A little abruptly. I think I found it, at least for this high gain amp, with this, roughly around 21 is where I liked it the best. Yeah, that's the thing about a Gates. Sometimes you're sacrificing, not sometimes, you'll be sacrificing some sustain. All right, I think that's about as much as we can do with gate number 1. Let's try gate number 2. All right, gate number 2. As you can see with gate number 2, we actually do have some more options. We got a threshold, an attack, and a release. So, once again, I'm gonna kick it on using the same amp model, and you're gonna hear exactly what it sounds like with no gate at all. Kicking it on now. There's that hiss. Now let's try it out with its defaults at all noon. It's actually not too bad. It doesn't cut off the beginning or the end. Not too bad, actually. Yeah, it does cut it off really quick. Not getting any of those long bends with it that way. All right, so let's play around with it a little, shall we? Let's bring that threshold to about 20. Got a lot more sustain out of that long bend note than we did with the threshold where it was. Now, let's maybe lower the attack and up the release. Maybe too long of a release there. I'm going to back that release off even a little bit more. Get everything at roughly around 20s and 30s. Pretty good. All right, let's toy around a little bit more. Make the attack extreme. I made the attack quite extreme. Threshold down a little bit. That's a little too low, the threshold. All right, I think you get the idea. The noise gates can be adjusted however much attack or release or whatever threshold you want. Again, the second one gives you a lot more options than the first one. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So, today we're going to be doing a review of the modulation section of the Valeton GP-100. I'm going to be using my Gibson Melody Maker Les Paul with a single EMG humbucker in the bridge position. Signal chain is going to be the same way I've done everything for the Valeton reviews because I only have one DI box. I'm going into the Valeton, out of the left and right 1/4-inch outputs into the interface, and everything you're hearing back is just the Valeton GP-100 with no post-production whatsoever. For the amp model, I'm going to be using the 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the corresponding Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. Here's the settings that I'm going to use on the Fender Bassman right here. Here's how it sounds, clean, with no effects on it whatsoever. All right, for the most part, I will not be adjusting the settings on every one of the modulation effects. That would make for far too long of a video. For the most part, I'll keep everything at 12 noon. And I'll also keep the rate for most of them at 0.5. That way I don't get it too saturated and crazy. This is a chorus. That was A chorus. This is G chorus. That was G chorus. This is B chorus. And I had to turn up the rate a little bit because at 0.5, you really couldn't tell at all. That was B chorus, with the rate slightly adjusted. This is D tune. That was D tune. This is flanger. That was flanger. This is vibrato. And I had to adjust the rate up a little bit. At 0.5, you really couldn't tell much. That was vibrato, with the rate adjusted a little bit. This is phaser. That was phaser. This is vibe. That was vibe. This is optiotrem. That was optiotrem. This is shine trem. That was shine trem. This is triangle trem. That was triangle trem. Last but not least, bias trem. That was bias trem. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. Welcome to today's video, the Valeton GP-100 delays. For this review, I'm using my Glen Burton GE355 semi-hollow body electric that's loaded with EMG pickups. I'm going to be using it in the position that has both the neck and bridge humbucker going. For the signal chain, this is going to be a little different than usual, but the same way that I've been doing it for all of the demos for the Valeton GP-100. Since I only have one direct box, and this is a stereo unit, I'm going from the guitar into the GP-100, out of the left and right 1/4-inch stereo outs, directly into my interface and into my DAW. What you're going to be hearing back is just the GP-100 with no post-production whatsoever. For this demo, I'm going to be using the 1959 Fender Bassman model on the bright channel with the corresponding Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. You can see my settings right here for the way that I'm going to have the Fender Bassman. And again, I'm using the Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet to go along with that. Here's how it sounds clean, just with the Bassman. All right, it looks like we've got 11 delays here. Now, I'm really not going to play too much with the settings because, again, that would make for far too long of a video. So here's the delay known as sweet. That was the delay known as sweet. Here is P echo. All right, that was P echo. Here's M echo. was M echo, T echo. That was T echo, 999 echo. That was 999 echo, Rev echo. That was Rev echo, slapback. That was slapback. Vin rack. That was Vin rack. Sweep echo. That was sweep echo. Ping pong. That was ping pong. And last but not least, M echo 2. All right, that was M Echo 2. That about does it for this video. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. Welcome to today's video, the Valeton GP-100 Reverb Sounds. I'm going to be using my Glenn Burton GE355NT Memphis model semi-hollow body electric with 2 EMG humbuckers. I'm going to be using it in the center position with both the neck and bridge humbucker. For this, the signal chain is going to be the same as most that I've been doing with the Valeton GP-100 because I only have one direct box. So I'm going from the guitar into the GP-100, out of the 2 stereo 1/4-inch outputs, into the interface and into the DAW, and everything that you're hearing back is just the GP-100, no post-production whatsoever. For all this demo, I'm going to be using the 1959 Fender Bassman model on the bright channel with the corresponding Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. You can see my settings that I'm going to be using here on the Fender Bassman. And this is the sound of the Bassman, clean, with no effects on it. All right, that's just the clean amp itself. All right, so the GP-100 has 9 different reverb sounds. All right, let's start things off with the room reverb. All right, that was the room reverb. Now, let's hear the hall reverb. All right, that was a hall reverb. They call this one church. All right, that one was called church. Plate reverb. That was a plate reverb. spring reverb. That was a spring reverb. N star. That was N star. Deep C. That was deep C. Mod verb. That was mod verb. Last and most certainly not least, clear sky. That was clear sky. All right, that about does it. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So what's going on, everybody? Today we're taking a look at the Valeton GP-100, all of the bass guitar factory presets. Today, I'm going to be demoing all the sounds for you on my modified All to Hell Ibanez Soundgear Geo Series 6-string bass that's been modified with 2 EMG jazz pickups in soap bar casings and a EMG precision bass pickup. I'm going to be using it in the precision that has both EMG jazz bass pickups and the EMG precision bass pickup in. Signal chain is going to be the same as it has been for most of these demos with the GP-100. Since I only have one DI box, I'm going out of the 2 stereo 1/4-inch outputs into 2 inputs on my recording interface, into my DAW, and what you're hearing back is nothing but the GP-100 completely unprocessed. All right, the first sound is known as finger bass. That was finger bass. Next up, we have smooth bass. All right, that was smooth bass. Next up, we have pick bass. All right, that was pick bass. Here's slap bass. All right, that was slap bass. Next, we got OD bass. That was OD bass. Balanced bass. That was balanced bass, power bass. That was power bass. Bass distortion. That was bass distortion. Bass fuzz. That was bass fuzz. Gent bass. That was gent bass. Dirty wah. That was dirty wah. Woody bass. That was Woody bass. Sweet J bass. That was Sweet J bass. Now we've got DI bass sim. All right, that was DI bass sim, Motown funk. that was Motown Funk. Next we got bass chorus. That's bass chorus, ambient bass. That was ambient bass. Next up, we have path bass. That was path bass. And last, but most certainly not least, is Octadream. All right, and that was Octadream. All right, that about does it for the Valeton GP-100 all bass guitar factory presets. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. All right, everybody, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Valeton GP-100, all of the bass amps, just the amps and the cabs only. Much like with the guitar video that I did with this nature, I always want to find out when there's a modeler what the straight amp sound is like before you add in all the effects, the reverbs, the delays, and all that. Because if I'm using it for recording, I want to get myself just a good amp and cab sound first. Then, when I'm recording, I'll get all my delays, reverbs, and all those sort of effects directly from the DAW. The effects are nice for when playing live, but, you know. So, this actually has 7 different bass amps and 5 different bass cabs. Now, there's a wild card for the Fender 59 Bassmen amp for the normal and bright channel. Now, they were actually made for bass. They're called the Bassmen. But everyone's used them for guitar forever, but in this example, I'm using the Bassmen tones as well. Some of the amps do not have the corresponding cabinet/speaker that goes with them. In this case, I'm going to be choosing the closest cab/speaker with the amp. I'll be keeping all of the settings of all the amps at 12 o'clock, with the exception of the gain. I'll bring the gain up as high as it can go with it still being clean. I want to demonstrate nothing but the clean amp sounds on all of them. Of course, I could play around with all the settings, but again, that would make for way too long of a video. For demoing out all these sounds, again, I'm using my modified all to hell Ibanez Soundgear Geo Series 6-string bass with 2 active EMG jazz bass pickups and an active EMG P bass pickup. I have it in the setting that has both of the jazz bass pickups and the P bass pickup on. Using the different signal chain that I have been using for recording with the GP-100, since I only have one direct box, I'm going directly from the 2/4-inch stereo outputs directly into the interface, right into the DAW, and everything that you're hearing back is just the GP-100, no post-production done whatsoever. First sound we got is an Ampeg SVT with an Ampeg SVT 410 cab. Alrighty, that was an Ampeg SVT with an Ampeg SVT 410 cabinet. Now, next up, we got an Ampeg SVT once again, but this time with the Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab. All right, that was an Ampeg SVT, but this time with an Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab. Next up, we have an Ampeg B15 with an Ampeg 4x10 cab. Once again, that was an Ampeg B15 with an Ampeg SVT 4x10. And we have an Ampeg B15 once again, but this time with the Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab. Once again, that was an Ampeg B15, but this time with the Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab. Next up, we have an Alembic F-2B preamp with an SWR Working Man's 410. All right, so that was an Alembic F-2B preamp with an SWR Working Man's 400. Next up, we have a Vox AC-100 with an SWR Working Man's 410. Alrighty, that was a Vox AC-100 with an SWR Working Man's 4x10. Next up, we got a Mesa Boogie Bass 400 with a Mesa Boogie 2x10 cab. Alrighty, once again, that was the Mesa Boogie Bass 400 with the Mesa Boogie 2x10 cabinet. Next up, we got a 1959 Fender Bassman on the normal channel with a 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. All right, that was a 1959 Fender Bassman on the normal channel with a 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. All right, last and most certainly not least is once again the Fender 59 Bassmen, but this time on the bright channel with the Fender 59 Bassmen 4x10 cabinet. Alrighty, and that was the 1959 Fender Bassman on the bright channel with the 1959 Fender Bassman 4x10 cabinet. That about does it for the Valeton GP-100, all bass amps, amps and cab sounds only. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So, today we're doing a review of the drum machine inside the Valeton GP-100. Signal chain's going to be the same as it's been for the Valeton GP-100 stuff because, again, only one DI box. I'm going out of the Valeton GP-100's left and right 1/4-inch outputs into my interface, and everything you're hearing coming back is just the Valeton GP-100, no post-production whatsoever. Okay, so the built-in drum machine essentially just has a bunch of drum loops. You can't program or change the drum machines around. Now, there's 100 drum loops in there from various different styles, including the metronomes, which have multiple different time signatures. For the most part, I'm going to do everything at about 120 BPM, roughly. And I'm going to play through them one full rotation. Some of them seem to be roughly 2 bars, some of them seem to be 4 bars. Now, as you can see here, we've got a whole bunch of different styles from electronic, rock, funk, pop, blues, world, jazz, and metro is just metronomes, for 4/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/9 for those of us that like to get really proggy and jazzy. Under electronic, here's the one known as D&B. All right, that was D&B under electronic. Now let's go Electro 1 under electronic. All righty, that was Electro 1 under electronic. Now let's try Electro 2 under electronic. That was Electro 2 under electronic. Now let's try Techno under electronic. That was Techno under electronic. Now let's try Trip Hop under electronic. That was Trip Hop under electronic. Now let's try E-Pop under electronic. That was E-Pop under electronic. Now let's try break under electronic. That was break under electronic. Now let's try hip hop 1 under electronic. That was hip hop 1 under electronic. Now let's try hip hop 2 under electronic. That was hip hop 2 under electronic. Now let's try hip hop 3 under electronic. That was hip hop 3 under electronic. Let's try hip hop 4 under electronic. That was hip hop 4 under electronic. Now we're getting into the rock drum grooves. Let's try prog underneath the rock section. That was prog under the rock section. Let's try rock 1 under the rock section. That was rock 1 under the rock section. Let's try rock 2 under the rock section. That was rock 2 under the rock section. Let's try rock 3 under the rock section. That was rock 3 under the rock section. Let's try surfing under the rock section. That was surfing under the rock section. Let's try shuffle under the rock section. That was shuffle under the rock section. Let's try R&R under the rock section. That was R&R under the rock section. Let's try ballad under the rock section. That was ballad under the rock section. Let's try SF3/4 under the rock section. That was SF3/4 under the rock section. Let's hear rock 5/4 under the rock section. That was rock 5/4 under the rock section. Let's hear classic under the rock section. That was classic under the rock section. Let's hear SF44 under the rock section. That was SF44 in the rock section. Let's hear garage in the rock section. Pretty sure that's short for garage. That was garage in the rock section. Let's hear hard 1 in the rock section. That was hard 1 in the rock section. Let's hear hard 2 in the rock section. That was hard 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear new 1 in the rock section. That was new 1 in the rock section. Now, let's hear new 2 in the rock section. That was new 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear metal 1 in the rock section. That was metal 1 in the rock section. Now, let's hear metal 2 in the rock section. That was metal 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear punk 1 in the rock section. That was punk 1 in the rock section. Now, let's hear punk 2 in the rock section. That was punk 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear punk 3 in the rock section. That was punk 3 in the rock section. Now, let's hear punk 4 in the rock section. That was punk 4 in the rock section. Now, let's hear punk 5 in the rock section. That was punk 5 in the rock section. Now, let's hear P-Punk 1 in the rock section. That was P-Punk 1 in the rock section. Now, let's hear P-Punk 2 in the rock section. That was P-Punk 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear emo in the rock section. That was emo in the rock section. Now, let's hear core in the rock section. That was core in the rock section. Now, let's hear new wave in the rock section. That was new wave. Now, let's hear P-Rock 1 in the rock section. That was P-Rock 1 in the rock section. Now, let's hear P-Rock 2 in the rock section. That was P-Rock 2 in the rock section. That was P-Rock 2 in the rock section. Now, let's hear P-Rock 3 in the rock section. That was P-Rock 3 in the rock section. Now, let's hear Hard 3 in the rock section. That was Hard 3 in the rock section. Let's hear Funk 1 in the funk section. That was Funk 1 in the funk section. Let's hear Funk 2 in the funk section. That was Funk 2 in the funk section. Let's hear Funk 3 in the funk section. That was Funk 3 in the funk section. Let's hear Funk 4 in the funk section. That was Funk 4 in the funk section. Let's hear Pub in the pop section. That was Pub in the pop section. Let's hear Pop 1 in the pop section. That was Pop 1 in the pop section. Let's hear Pop 2 in the pop section. That was Pop 2 in the pop section. Let's hear Pop 3 in the pop section. That was Pop 3 in the pop section. Let's hear Blues 1 in the blues section. That was Blues 1 in the blues section. Let's hear Blues 2 in the blues section. That was Blues 2 in the blues section. Let's hear Blues 3 in the blues section. That was Blues 3 in the blues section. Let's hear bluegrass in the blues section. That was bluegrass in the blues section. Let's hear country in the blues section. That's where it is. Weird, eh? That was country in the blues section. I know, weird. This is folk in the blues section. That was folk in the blues section. Let's listen to blues 4 in the blues section. That was blues 4 in the blues section. Let's listen to Latin 1 in the world section. That was Latin 1 in the world section. Let's listen to Latin 2 in the world section. That was Latin 2 in the world section. Let's hear Latin 3 in the world section. That was Latin 3 in the world section. Let's listen to Pop 1 in the world section. That was Pop 1 in the world section. Let's listen to Pop 2 in the world section. That was Pop 2 in the world section. This is Bossa 1 in the world section. That was Bossa 1 in the world section. Let's listen to Bossa 2 in the world section. That was Bossa 2 in the world section. I'm going to have a real hard time pronouncing some of these, so if I'm pronouncing them incorrectly, sorry. Let's hear Bajine in the world section. That was Bajine in the world section. Let's hear Mizuki in the world section. That was Mazouk in the world section. Let's hear Samba in the world section. That was Samba in the world section. Let's try Army in the world section. That was Army in the world section. Let's try March 1 in the world section. That was March 1 in the world section. Let's try March 2 in the world section. That was March 2 in the world section. Let's try Musset in the world section. That was Musset in the world section. Let's try New Age 1 in the world section. That was New Age 1 in the world section. Let's try New Age 2 in the world section. That was New Age 2 in the world section. Let's try Polka in the world section. That was Polka in the world section. Let's try Tango in the world section. That was Tango in the world section. Let's try Ska in the world section. That was Ska in the world section. Let's try Waltz in the world section. That was Waltz in the world section. Let's try Rag 1 in the world section. That was Rag 1 in the world section. That was Rag 1 in the world section. Let's try Rag 2 in the world section. That was Rag 2 in the world section. Let's try World in the world section. That was World in the world section. Let's try Jazz 1 in the jazz section. That was Jazz 1 in the jazz section. Let's try Jazz 2 in the jazz section. That was Jazz 2 in the jazz section. Let's hear Jazz 3 in the jazz section. That was Jazz 3 in the jazz section. Let's hear Jazz 4 in the jazz section. That was Jazz 4 in the jazz section. Let's hear Funk 1 in the jazz section. That was Funk 1 in the jazz section. Let's hear Funk 2 in the jazz section. That was Funk 2 in the jazz section. Let's hear Funk 3 in the jazz section. That was Funk 3 in the jazz section. Let's hear Fusion in the jazz section. That was fusion in the jazz section. In the metro section, it's just all metronomes. You can see it's just got all the different time signatures here. For example, here's a 4/4, giving you a different sound on what the 1 is. Giving you a different sound on whatever the 1 is. Three, 4, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. I'm not actually going to go through every one of the metronome sounds. Thanks for checking out this video. Do what makes you happy. So what's going on, everyone? I know I just got a sponsorship with Valeton, but that was for the GP-200. I purchased this GP-100 with my own money, so all thoughts on this unit are mine. I've done roughly about 13 videos to date on this unit, and I have to say, this thing has exceptional value. First off, what really attracted me to this unit is the build quality. None of the other pedals in this price point were made out of solid metal like this thing is. This thing is just rock solid. All of the other units that were in this price point for a 2-pedal, 1 expression pedal type modeling multi-effects unit were made primarily out of plastic. I'm 5'11" and roughly about 215 pounds. If I'm really going to work this expression pedal and have to click it down with all my body weight, it better be able to take my weight. I have a feeling that any one of the plastic units, after a while, snap, gone. And unlike some other people, I really do like the expression pedals on these little units. I love using a wah at all times. So some sort of expression pedal that's going to be solid and not feel like it's going to snap on you is a good thing. And this thing is rock solid. My second reason that I was really attracted to this unit is, once again, for all of the other units in this price point, and I may be wrong about this. If I am wrong about this, leave a comment below. It's one of the only units that has a decent little amount of bass guitar amps and bass guitar effects. I play bass as well as guitar, so I wanted something that'd be able to give me some tones for either or, depending on what I was going to be doing with it. The third reason I wanted this unit was for the stomp box mode option. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong about this. The other units just have patch mode, where you can go up or go down through the patches with the 2 foot switches. The Valeton GP-100 gives you the stomp box mode option, where you can assign any one of the 2 buttons to turn off 2 or even 3 effects on or off all at once. This is the way that I have used the GP-100. For all of my live streams, I've always kept it in stomp box mode option. The first foot switch I use to turn on or off my distortion. The second switch I use to turn on or off my delay. And a quick click down on the expression pedal changes it from a volume pedal to a wah pedal. Use that with a little bit of always on reverb. This worked great in my guitar setup for my solo live looping show. And I used this way until I got the GP-200. The value of this thing is just incredible. It gets delivered to your front door from Amazon for a little under $150 Canadian through Amazon Prime. It has 45 amp sims, 40 cab IRs, 140 effects, drum machine, looper, 20 user IR slots, and can work as an audio interface. Just an incredible value. There are single pedals that can cost $300 or more that do just one thing. Now, I know what quite a few people are going to say. Not all the effects and sounds sound great. Absolutely correct. Not all of the sounds are fantastic. However, if you can salvage just a couple, 2, 3, 4 even good sounds that you like, it's more than worth its value. Like I said, I've used this unit as my guitar rig and my solo live looping rig for a little more than a year, and it worked great. Then again, I'm using 1 amp, 1 cab with always on reverb, with a distortion, a delay, and a wah. That's pretty much it. If you want something with several blocks on at one time and want several snapshot options, then this might not be for you. Your mileage may vary. If that is the case, you'll need to get a larger unit like the Valeton GP-200, Pod Go, or something larger like that. The guitar amp models are awesome. The Fender amps have beautiful clean sounds. My favorite of the Fender clean amps is the 59 Bassman. The high gain amps are also awesome. The Soldano SLO 100 is my favorite of the high gain amps. It sounds absolutely killer. What I was the most disappointed about with this unit was the acoustic simulator sounds. Didn't sound that good, and there was always a weird, loud distortion that would pop out of nowhere. Spent a long time trying to get it to sound good, but no dice. Hey, they can't all be zingers, eh? So, in short, if you're going to get this unit, I'm sure that you can squeeze $150 worth of value out of it, for sure. Thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, click the notification bell, like, comment, and share. It doesn't cost a thing and would really help out the channel. Also, please subscribe to my other channel, GK Mac Music, for some live looping live streams with a side of jackassery, some original music, and some short content, also with a side of jackassery. If you'd like to help out the channel financially, you can buy some merch at the merch store, or you can become a channel member. As always, everyone, thanks so much for your continued support. Do what makes you happy.